It takes leadership, and you can't give the third party leadership in the mayor's office.
Property taxes are off the table. For you, Commissioner Garcia, are they off the table?
There are many things that need to be on the table. However, you cannot move forward until you show Chicagoans where the tax dollars are going. Chicagoans need to know that this mayor has provided corporate welfare to his cronies, millionaires and billionaires in Illinois, in terms of tax increment financing, and that he promised 4 years ago to put Chicago's fiscal house in order. We're in a financial freefall. The city has been downgraded, 3 of its agencies over the past 2 weeks to near junk bond status, and he claims that he has the financial sophistication to deal with the city's problem. Not so. We need to be honest with taxpayers, show them the truth, and then come to terms with what the difficult choices are going to be.
Let's be honest with taxpayers. In 2014, our total pension contribution was $479 million. In 2016, it'll be $1.2 billion. At that rate, you can't guarantee retirees their checks, and taxpayers are scared out of their minds. So let's just go back, just to get you on the record, if you will go on the record.
Well, we're here.
No, but I mean, but property taxes, can they be off the table?
This is very clear. From 4 years ago, we're in a spiral of losing jobs and businesses, and our economy was shrinking, and our budget was at $600 million a year in deficit. I've cut it in half, and Lawrence Massol from the Civic Federation has acknowledged every budget has taken another step forward in putting our fiscal house in order. We are 2 pensions less in crisis. Going forward, I also firmly believe, Carol, that this has been a whole effort, in all efforts, 4 budgets, 2 pensions, without a property tax. Every effort going forward on police and fire is to avoid a property tax. I've laid out a specific plan before the election. You've laid out a commission with not even the guidance to take property tax off. And I think what the leadership requires and what the public requires is a plan not only to put our fiscal house in order, but if you don't do that, jobs and businesses will flee, and then we're going to have to raise taxes dramatically and cut services directly. And I'm giving a balanced approach of reform and revenue and being very specific about how to do it, and also working to get it done, which is where we have agreement.
Carol, 4 years ago, the mayor promised to put the city's fiscal house in order. That hasn't happened. That's why we're in this financial hole that we're in today. He underfunded the pension funds in the city of Chicago. Now he's coming forward trying to talk in a very sophisticated way about how he's going to fix it. But he is part of that responsibility. He said he would do it. He has failed to do it. The truth of the matter is that he has provided tax incentives, tax resources, Chicago taxpayer resources to the rich and wealthy, and it's only made this situation worse. That's why the Civic Federation warned him that he has indebted the city at intolerable levels where 25% of all of the annual revenues go to debt relief and debt payment.
So, Commissioner Garcia, you've made a pledge. Let's just dig into your math a little bit. You've made a pledge to end red light cameras.
Yes.
The city has a $44 million contract with Xerox that ends in 2018. You shut them down, you still have to pay the contract, right?
The red light cameras, no, you don't. There are reasons to be able to opt out. There are plenty of reasons with respect to this contract. First of all,
but then let me just follow up on that.
Sure.
But then you've got to make up $60 to $70 million in ticket revenue that you get off those red light cameras. Assuming you can kill the contract, where do you come up with that money?
Carol, that is part of the challenge. That's not the biggest challenge. The bigger challenge are pensions. The bigger challenges are the deficits that we're inheriting. Property taxpayers, because they see their bill when it comes, over the past 4 years paid $432 million worth of increases that came from the 4 agencies that the tax bill comes on property taxes, okay? That's what he's not talking about. There already was. In addition to that, the red light cameras, the other fees, fines, and penalties tax Chicagoans to the tune of $700 million. That was reported in the Chicago Tribune. So, and furthermore, both the old red light camera and his expanded red light and speed light camera are tainted because his former campaign chief and congressional top aide is tied to the company that got the contract. It all smells really bad.
I got 2 things. In 1997 down in Springfield, you voted on the teachers' pension fund when you were warned by the CPS not to give a holiday for missing payments that would create a crisis. The crisis you're talking about was started in Springfield in 1997 when you voted for that way. And the actual problem we have today is because Springfield actually, and legislators, kicked the can down the road. The challenge we have today wasn't created in 4 years ago. It was created over the last 40 years where Springfield and leaders in Chicago kicked the can down the road. And our issue today is in the last 4 years, we've cut our structural deficit in half.
But you've also asked for pension holidays.
No, but we've been we have 2 pensions that are on the road to solvency, and we actually
I was there when there was an attempt in the legislature to get one.
In 1997, Chuy voted to actually create a holiday, and CPS warned that it would lead to a crisis in the pension. In addition to that, I don't believe in the idea of having a commission afterwards study the issue. In addition to that, I don't believe in the idea of having a commission afterwards study the issue when we know full right for the last 5 years we have a crisis.
Can I ask you a red light camera question?
Sure.
You announced...
But can I also address the TIF issue, because that's been said twice, and I thought I'd like to address it.
Well, you may.
Okay. You've made this charge. There's basically out of the $100 million, over half of it, as Greg Hines today noted in Crane's business, goes to build McCormick Place, which is the biggest driver of jobs in the city of Chicago. When I became mayor, we were 5th place in the country. Today we're number 1, creating over 10,000 jobs in the service and in the whole industry of hospitality. I set a goal now to create another 10,000. We replaced Orlando and Vegas.
TIFs have done well for us.
Yeah, for Ken Griffith and his associates, the richest man in Illinois.
These are plumbers. These are electrical workers. These are janitors that work there. We are going to create jobs, and I'm not going to let Chicago, and I don't think it's good in Chicago's interest, to go back behind Orlando and Vegas, doubling down on our success. Creating jobs for people in the city of Chicago, where we lead in the industry, is actually how we stay ahead. And a growing economy with jobs here for Chicagoans is how you actually solve this budgetary problem, because jobs and economic growth are part of our budget solution.
Back to red light cameras. You announced that the city's taking down 50 of them because there's no longer a safety issue. That leaves 124 intersections that still have safety concerns. Are those unsafe places?
Starting day one, I inherited a corrupt system, through the operator out. But a level working with the IG, a level of transparency. We also shut down 32 about a year and a half ago. Another 50 were announced they're closed, so 20% of the cameras have actually come down in that area. In the areas that we have existing cameras, all 43 additional ones will now have a countdown clock, and they do have a safety concern as it relates to how we look at the data, and it is about eliminating the side crashes, which are the most dangerous, and making sure that we bring not only safety there, that police officers are not writing tickets for traffic accidents. They're out chasing guns and gang members, which is where we want our police officers.
Commissioner Garcia, the cameras.
The cameras are founded on a lie. The cameras are there to produce revenue that the mayor doesn't mind taxing low-income people and working people. That's why on day one, I will get rid of all those cameras. Even the current vendor of the camera system, Xerox, has a conflict of interest. His former congressional aide works for them, went to work for them 2 weeks before they got the contract. This is a tainted contract too, and he knows it.
Are red light cameras fair? I mean, we have the shortest yellow lights in America, it seems, and there's a question of whether that leads to rear-end collisions, that it's they're sort of rigged so you're going to lose if you're going through. Isn't that true?
No, actually, give it to the city, and we're consistent with the United States Department of Transportation, and they're on the 3-second area. But this is about safety, and it's also about transparency. And Chuy, if it comes to that, you actually were the swing vote at the county, taking a contribution from a company, and the next day you voted in favor as a swing vote. The clear thing is, from day one, we've been reforming the system, took the cameras down, and I think the most important thing is to make sure our officers are doing what they should be doing on public safety in the area of fighting guns and gangs, and not writing traffic tickets.
Commissioner?
One more inaccuracy of the mayor's. At Cook County, we haven't approved any red light cameras. We got a request from River Forest to install a camera near county facilities. They needed an intergovernmental agency. They chose the vendor. Has nothing to do with red light cameras in Chicago or the company. That's the truth.
When's the last time you got a moving violation?
Last year, red light camera.
Mayor, have you told... Have you told your guys to stop running through the red light cameras?
I've told them to stop doing it, and I also pay when they do it.
We're going to go out into the audience in just a second because we have Alba and Marianne ready for some questions. Alba, shall we begin with you, please?
We have Silvia Puente. She's the Executive Director of the Latino Policy Forum. Silvia, what's your question?
Good evening, gentlemen. Unemployment is 7% for white Chicagoans, but in our city's Latino and African American communities, it is 12% and 25% respectively. How will you promote job creation and get downtown companies, where the good jobs are, to hire more full-time employees from Chicago neighborhoods?
Mayor?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. The good news is jobs are coming back to the city of Chicago. The employers are coming back to the city of Chicago. Actually goes to a conversation we had starting 4 years ago. Our community colleges, while the second biggest in the country, had the worst graduation rate in America. We redirected them to the most promising industries: healthcare, transportation, advanced manufacturing, professional services. Going forward, I said, you get a B average in high school, community college will be free, so that a person coming out of school that says Harold Washington has got a good chance of getting a job as somebody saying DePaul. And making our community colleges, making sure that the students from the city of Chicago had a chance at the jobs and the careers that are promising a middle-class life has been since day one a commitment I've made, and we're actually now
West Side, at a couple of locations on Chicago's South Side. That is how we're going to make it relevant to youth and accessible, so that they get exposed to it, so that they learn how it is a career path to good paying jobs, to higher education, and how it also benefits communities throughout the city of Chicago.
Mayor?
Karen, it's an excellent question. So day one, I went and helped create with neighborhood high schools, 5 high schools. One of them, Sarah Good, was on the cover of Time magazine. They're all STEM-based. They go from 9th grade to 14th grade. Michelle Clark, CVCA, and they're all associated with companies in the tech space. Like Sarah Good, if you go all the way through to 14th grade, you're guaranteed a job interview at IBM at $50,000 a year. It was on the cover of Time magazine. Second, it's also part of our community colleges. Wright College is all focused on IT and the most promising jobs in the digital economy, which we added 40,000 jobs here in the city of Chicago. And lastly, and I think this is really important, when I became mayor, only 300 kids in our high schools were involved in the dual credit, dual enrollment at our community colleges. Next year, it will grow to 6,000 kids getting free college classes in the most promising area of technology. And by 2018, to graduate from our public high schools, you're going to have to know how to do computer code writing, which is your ticket. What I call the dual language of the 21st century is knowing how to do computer code writing. And each of those pieces are part of a comprehensive strategy to make sure everybody has a chance at the most promising jobs coming to Chicago.
Let's toss to Alba now in the audience. Alba?
Thank you. We know that both of you support immigration reform, but if you want to lead by example, how much money are you willing to budget to contribute to the Illinois Dream Fund so more undocumented students can get a scholarship for college?
Mayor?
Well, the Chicago Star Scholarship that allows you, if you earn a B average in high school, to go to community college for free. No parent will have to take a second job, Alba. No parent will have to take a second mortgage. Is open to undocumented kids here in the city of Chicago. You go to public high school, regardless of your parents' background, you earn a B average, community college for free. First city in America to do it. We're going to go from a K through 12 model to a pre-K through college model, and that ensures that not only is it for dreamers, but undocumented, everybody in the city of Chicago who's a graduate of CPS can go to community college for free if they earn a B average. And we've opened up all our summer jobs to dreamers as well, all 24,000.
With respect to immigration, I think it's important to realize that part of the reason we haven't had comprehensive immigration reform is because the mayor, when he was chief of staff to President Obama, recommended that he not invest in putting all of his capital to make immigration reform a reality. He has a similar history with the Clinton administration. If that had happened, we might not need to talk about dreamers and investing more and helping them. It's because of that situation that we're here. As an immigrant, as someone who understands the immigrant reality for many of Chicago's diverse immigrant communities, I would work with those constituents to see what we could do. We're going to be in very difficult financial straits. I'm not here to patronize or to say we're going to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a fund, but I will work closely with the advocates to see what we can do to move it forward.
Let's talk about billions of dollars. One of our most dangerous fiscal cliffs involves the Chicago Public Schools. It faces $1 billion budget deficit this fall. In 5 months, when school starts, you've got to have a balanced budget. How are you going to do that?
Well, let's go back 4 years. both books were out of order.
No, no, let's not. Let's go forward.
Okay, no, well, you know, Carol, the fact is, 4 years ago, 4 out of 10 kids were dropping out, and the schools are ultimately now, in 2 years, 8 out of 10 kids will be graduating from high school. And if you want to grow the economy to address issues, you have to make sure kids are getting an education. On that issue, because it's not just one side of the equation, the schools ultimately are making sure that we have to get our kids a good education. In addition to that, we've taken $750 million out of the central office so we don't affect the classrooms.
It's a one-time thing. You've also...
Well, that's over each of the budgets. But in addition, here's the issue. 3/4 of the problem is about the pensions. That's 3/4 of the problem, about $750 million a year. Chicago and Illinois, years ago, set up a challenge. And that is, we're the only taxpayers in the state of Illinois who are taxed to not only support our teachers' pensions, we support teachers' pensions in Naperville, Schaumburg, Peoria, and all across the state. That has to end. And part of the crisis, financially, goes back to the vote in 1997 when actually the legislature allowed CPS to skip payments, which started the process of digging our hole.
Commissioner Garcia, talk to me about this billion-dollar budget deficit and how it gets erased or mitigated.
The billion-dollar deficit in part is due to the terrible fiscal management of the resources at Chicago Public Schools. He appointed the board. He has exclusive authority, and he's opposed to an elected school board. I favor it. 90% of Chicagoans favor it too. That's part of the problem. That's why Moody's downgraded the bonds at Chicago Public Schools 2 weeks ago. Two, it's important to understand that tax increment financing, which is used to subsidize his cronies, has drained resources from the school, another contributor to the situation. I can't tell you right now how I would solve it, but I do tell you that I will have the finances of Chicago Public Schools audited so that the citizens know where the money has been going and what kinds of risky investments members of the board have engaged in that have put at risk the financial stability of the system. No mayor can tell you that right off the bat.
Well, no, this is a clear problem. We have a $1 billion problem. And Chuy, we actually do know, this is not after the election, here's the surprise. Here's the difference. 3/4 of the problem comes from the pensions. The fact is we have to end right now. And because we have this crisis, this is an opportunity to actually resolve it. Springfield knows this, which is Chicago taxpayers are now paying twice, but only getting the benefit of the teachers' pensions for the city, but we subsidize everybody else's pension,
The legislature has taken a pass on that. What you're both talking about, you've been a legislator, you've been a legislator. You're going to try to depend on a place that hasn't been that dependable before, and you've not gotten that legislation put forward before.
Actually, here's the thing. The difference is, because it's come to the crisis, this is the opportunity to do things that actually have been put off for years, and where Springfield is actually, having kicked the can down the road, has created the very crisis that you're identifying. It didn't come upon us in 1 year. It didn't come upon us in 4 years. It came upon for 40 years of inequity that existed in Chicago.
Exactly.
But you didn't deal with it either. You said you would put the city's fiscal house in order 4 years ago, and now you're looking forward.
No, that's not.
Yes.
Let me answer the question. Yes, a fair question. Let me answer it. Fact is, when I became mayor, we had $600 million budget deficit. That's now been cut in half with no gimmicks, no property tax increase, and always increasing our investment in our children. In addition to that, we have 3 pension agreements without a property tax, and they're on the way to not only meeting their obligations, without further burden taxpayers.
Perhaps, if the Supreme Court agrees. No. Commissioner Garcia, you've got a lot of support from the teachers union, a lot of support in terms of boots on the ground and money. There are people who ask, how can you negotiate the teacher contract that's coming up with such a level of indebtedness to CTU?
Let's remember that I have been a public servant in and out of government for many years. I've worked on organizing issues, on policy issues, in philanthropy, community building, on and on. I have a reputation. I've been a consistent reformer all of my political years when I've been in elective office. I will deal with the teachers in a fair and equitable manner. There isn't any gravy to be given out when I'm elected mayor. We're going to sit down, but I'm going to be collaborative and engaging, and what we will have under my administration will be a set of open books that everyone can make reference to, know what the true state of our fiscal situation is, and then be able to make decisions moving forward. What we've lacked is transparency and accountability. What we've had is broken promises and misguided priorities.
Here's a clear difference, and that is when you talk about open books. I fought for and believed because what parents asked for was a full school day and full school year where our kids used to get the shortest school day and the shortest school year. And in fact, you're running an ad now on your website opposing the full school day and full school year. That's at risk. In addition, when I made sure that, with working with Barbara Bird Bennett at CPS, that every child has a full day of kindergarten throughout the city of Chicago, there were 15 elementary schools in Little Village, in the area you represented, that had a half day, and those kids are cheated out of their future for the rest of their
Mayor,
lives
You
because
extended
of
the
the policies.
day, but half of the libraries in the schools don't have librarians.
No,
So
Just
you
out of
extend the
curiosity,
day
just-
and no resources, what good does that
I
do?
actually
Both of
think if
you-
it's 85% of the children in the city of Chicago come from families of need, nobody would have ever designed to make sure that they had a great future and a great career with the shortest school day and the shortest school year. Nobody from around the world came to say, hey, I like the
You
Chicago model.
extended the day with no resources. That's the problem.
let's
And more than
talk-
half of the schools
and when it-
don't have librarians.
and when
Do
it
we
comes
need to
Perfect
close
example.
more schools? Do more schools need to close? given the
Absolutely
drop-
not. We do not.
Are you going to open the ones that were closed?
We have a difficult financial situation. I haven't made that commitment. We're going to have to deal with what we got. We need to take stock of what has happened. We need audits. We need accountability and transparency. Then
We're going to move to Alba Mindio for another question. Alba.
Yes, 29% of the population in Chicago is Hispanic. However, according to the Sun-Times, the Hispanic employees in city government only represent 18%. What specific plan do you have to change that disparity and City Hall becomes a reflection of the entire population in Chicago?
Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Alba, that's a very good question. That very story also acknowledged we're better than we were 4 years ago. We're not where we need to be. We're not going to change it overnight.
Why not? Why not? I mean, we're always not where we want to be, but can't we change it faster and better than we have?
Then in 4 years, we have, and here are the policies we put in place. Like all the things that we're doing, investing in our infrastructure, both at our water department and public transportation, we, for the first time, and also at our fire department, our police department, and all parts of the city, we made sure that if you're a graduate of CPS, you get credit when you're applying. That's how you make sure that the whole reflection of the city and all the strengths of the city are reflected in our workforce.
We're really talking about what City Hall looks like. And Commissioner Garcia, from your vantage point, you've been an alderman, commissioner.
State Senator.
And state senator. How does City Hall look to you in terms of racial ethnic balance?
the leadership at City Hall doesn't look diverse. It doesn't look like Chicago. What's been lacking is a policy of embracing fairness and equity and ensuring that all of Chicago is embraced. Under my administration, given my long history in the city of Chicago, I understand why the city needs to reflect all of the population and community in the city of Chicago. We can only move forward as a city when that occurs. Thus, my long history in fights to ensure fairness and equity for every community.
Mary Ann Ahern has a question.
We have a student joining us, Anastasia Kaiser. She is with the University of Chicago.
Chicago is one of America's most segregated cities. Why do you think this segregation persists, and what role should public policy play in reducing segregation?
Commissioner?
Chicago has had a long legacy of racial segregation. Chicago has been gradually becoming more diverse. I don't think the pace has been sufficient. It is found in our housing patterns. It is found in many of our ethnic enclaves, which are both a positive and a negative. I think that the only way we move forward in Chicago in creating more diverse communities that are truly economically and racially and ethnically mixed is by modeling the way, investing in developments all over the city of Chicago that seek to create neighborhoods that will be attractive to people who are, for the first time, starting a family, people who are, have a job and want to live in a neighborhood that is safe, a neighborhood that has good schools and access to good transportation. Because I'm an urban planner, I am equipped to engage and move Chicago in that direction to further diversify its communities.
Mayor?
I would say, Kaiser, that's a very good question. Obviously, there's a lot of historical patterns. Here's what the road is going forward. First and foremost, what you want to do is having a thriving neighborhood strategy. There are 4 key investments we have to make in public transportation, public schools, public libraries, and public parks. And if you lay those investments, that's why you lay a foundation for every neighborhood to be a place where not only businesses want to go, but also families want to raise their kids, which is why we've made a commitment. The Red Line South will be the first place we invest in modernizing the system so people, regardless of where they live, can get to work on time. Making sure through our library system that also in Albany Park, Chinatown, Edgewater, that we have a modern library system in all parts of the city that also, I can give you a classic example. We're the only school system, library system now that has online tutoring for free in English and Spanish for all kids. And then our public schools are energizing them with either international baccalaureate or STEM education. And that's how you make sure every neighborhood, regardless of its ethnic background or history, is a place that all families want to raise their kids, and small businesses and commercial businesses want to locate. And that's how you have a thriving city where all people from all neighborhoods have a chance to participate.
But still the perception that we are, to a point, a truly segregated city. Besides that, we're a shrinking city. In 1970, there were 3.3 million people living here. In 2010, it was 2.6 million. Commissioner Garcia, why are we shrinking?
We're shrinking because we've not invested in Chicago's neighborhoods. We haven't invested in attracting industry, in attracting modern manufacturing. We haven't invested in bringing back some of those communities. Why? Most of the investment for the past couple of decades has been mostly in the downtown area. That's where a lot of this mayor's investments have been. In order for Chicago to become a truly great city, it needs to have great neighborhoods. Thus, my thrust to reinvest the city's resources and efforts into the neighborhoods, because in order for Chicago to become a sustainable city, we need to grow the population, and it needs to happen in the neighborhoods. The infrastructure is there to support it, but we need to be strategic to begin a comeback, a renaissance of neighborhoods.
Mayor, to the segregation issue, but also to one of Commissioner Garcia's arguments that we are really two cities. We are the rich city and we are the poor city. There is, on the face of it, some validity to that, is there not?
Oh, look, there's no doubt there's validity to that. And this is one of the views I also believe slightly different than Chuy. I think it's a false choice to pit one part of the city of Chicago against another. No great city does not have a thriving, growing central business district that supports jobs where people from all parts of the city go to. But you got to make sure they have a great education to also participate. In addition to that, you want to make sure our neighborhoods have the investments that Kaiser just talked about, so they also have a thriving local economy. And why I've also been so aggressive in making sure that we bring back manufacturing, not just on the research side, but with Ford Auto Plant is now added a third shift. Friedman Seating on the west side added 200 jobs. Manufacturing been there 100 years. Making sure Meade Electric on the southwest side brings its headquarters and 2,000 jobs. So we have a manufacturing base and a thriving economy. So our neighborhoods are places that are growing. And here today, when a company's deciding what they're going to do, they're not picking parts of Chicago. They're picking, like Motorola, to go to Sunnyvale, California, Chicago, and they brought 2,000 jobs to Chicago because that's the way to build one city growing together.
Some quick questions, really quick, because we have about 2 minutes left. There are a lot of people who write into us to say they live in the flight pattern of O'Hare, they're not sleeping, they're cranky. What are you going to do about it? Is there something either one of you as mayor can do to give some relief to those people with those noisy jets?
Yeah. Carol, the residents who live around O'Hare with the changed flight patterns, I think, have legitimate gripes. And all they are looking for is someone to sit with them,
Can a mayor
listen
fix
to
it?
them.
Can a mayor fix it?
I don't know if a mayor can fix it, but a mayor can show some sympathy. A mayor can show that a mayor cares. A mayor can meet with them. That's what I've done on several occasions.
But can you
I'm
get the
working
voice
with
of
them.
the FAA?
Well, that's what I will work at doing. At the very least, they need for the aviation commissioner to meet with them. The mayor should have been out there to meet with them a long time ago. You can't just pretend it isn't happening. When people cannot enjoy their backyards because planes continually are landing and taking off, it's a serious setback for people's most important investment in their lives.
It's a very serious challenge, and we've done. There's 3 things to make sure that people have the quality of life that they want in their neighborhood and in their home. We've added insulation. We got to speed that up. We put 8 sound monitors out throughout the area to give the data and demand that FAA, which is what we said, has to speed up their report so we know what to do for the flight patterns. At the end of the day, FAA must hurry up their work. That's what a mayor does, which is lead that effort and require the FAA to get the report on time, and so people have the insulation and the decisions that we know. So O'Hare can thrive, but has to be a good neighbor to all the residents.
Can I ask each of you for a sentence, not a paragraph, just a sentence? We're a city of big ideas.
Can it be a run-on sentence? No.
No. I was an English teacher, you know. Give me one big idea, Commissioner, that you're going to bring to City Hall if you're elected.
Truly invest in making the Port of Chicago an economic development engine that will bring back jobs and revitalize Chicago's South Side.
Mayor, big idea?
Yes. Continue to make Chicago's river, which goes throughout the city and our neighborhoods, the next waterfront of the city of Chicago, and the way the lakefront has been such an economic engine for the city and the quality of life. Do that throughout the city of Chicago, because the Chicago River has the potential to bring not only jobs, but the quality of life we want to see throughout the city of Chicago. And making sure, and doing that not only increases the property values for families, but also brings the type of economic vitality we want throughout the city
So
of
kind
Chicago.
of watery big ideas, right? The Port of Chicago and the river.
Well, the water is a key.
great
it could be
asset.
yes.
Absolutely.
And our city's different because of it, and that could be the next great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Both
Thank
of you.
you, Carol. Thank
Thanks.
you, and
Thanks, Chuy.
Telemundo.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joey.
We want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And a special thanks to the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics, the Harris School of Public Policy. This election is April 7th. Let's have a round of applause for our two candidates. And from the NBC Tower, I'm Carol Marie. Thank you and good night.